Hey, how's it going, everybody? Can anybody hear me? If so, can you guys let me know? We'll get started soon. Just want to make sure the audio and everything else sounds pretty good. So if people can respond if the audio is good on Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube, that would be awesome. Oh, thanks, Tomas. Thanks for confirming on Facebook. All right, looks like we're having people kind of start coming in, which is great. Welcome to the stream. I have a bit of a cold, so I'll probably be coughing a little bit and drinking a lot of water. So, if it gets annoying, let me know. I'll keep turning on and off my mic. All right. How's the music? Is the music okay? Too loud? Cool. So, we'll do a little talking before we get started about where I come from, what I do. Mostly visual effects for commercials and films. Here's my website. If you guys feel inclined to check it out, some of the projects I've been involved in, everything from music videos, commercials, films, VR experiences, a little bit of everything. I've been in the VFX industry for about 18 years, working on, all this stuff here you guys see. I know I have a lot of questions about where to get my interface. Oh yeah, thanks. Yeah, I'm recovering in the last week. It's been great, but just kind of taking it easy. If you guys wanted to get my UI, you guys can go to gumroad.com/mag, which I'll copy and paste for you guys. You guys can download my interface for free. It has some shaders, some custom stuff. So if you guys see something you guys like, you guys can take it from there or use my interface however you guys want. You guys can also follow me on Instagram at magvfx. Check out some of the stuff I've been up to. I do a lot of different types of things. So one of the main things is doing conventions, and that's what I do all these 3D prints for and stuff you guys will see here. Large scale 3D prints to small little creations. They're all done in ZBrush. Uh, One of the workflows that I wanted to talk to you guys about today was doing stuff on your iPad. You may ask, well, why the iPad, right? When you have ZBrush? Well, because you're not always around a computer. So one of the main things for me when I'm just sitting there with my daughter watching TV or hanging out, I want to be productive, kind of, you know. So I tend to sculpt on the iPad using Forger. And here's a little quick thing I was doing while watching TV. Let me lower the volume on the music just for a bit. Um, so here's a quick thing I did, and then from there I'll take it to ZBrush, bring it to ZBrush, and then, put all the detail, refine shapes, and all that stuff. Um, but I just kind of wanted to show you guys what you guys can do as a sketch. This was like a 45-minute sketch on and off while watching TV, and then from there you can export an OBJ and bring it to ZBrush, which is one of the things we're going to do today for this Halloween costume. So I made this thing, just hanging out, kind of just playing around on Forger as well, and then just export it to ZBrush, and we're gonna play around with it today. Um, I decided to, why not this Halloween try to do something fun for my own custom mask and 3D print it. So we'll be printing it at life size, and I'll be explaining some of that. Let's see what else. If you want to check out some other collectible stuff that I do for myself and sell at shows, check out La Bestia Studios. I'll copy and paste that as well so you guys can check it out if you have time. I'll be updating this website with more stuff soon and revamping the whole thing. But meanwhile, this is kind of what I have, so feel free to check it out. Let's see. So one of the main things that I did the last week, I've been sick for almost a week, but the week before and a little bit of last week is wrapping this guy up. You know, we went through the whole process of creating this from simple shapes to adding all this detail. So what I did was continue that detail on, refine some of the shapes. As you guys can see, it didn't change a whole lot, but it did change a tiny bit. But let me show you a little video in case you guys missed it, and I could play this a little fast because this was like probably another hour or two. Let's just fast forward this so you guys don't get bored. Because if you guys were joining the stream before, you guys would know that a lot of this is kind of repetitive stuff. I don't want to bore you guys with, but you guys can kind of see it at 2 times the speed. Hey, how you doing, Rex? Airfriend. Sorry if I get you guys' names wrong, but thanks for joining. So I just kind of recorded myself so you guys can see that I didn't do anything too crazy. It was a little more of the same stuff that you guys were watching. So I'll play this a little quicker so you guys can at least see how I got to this stage. Which is just kind of, just rinse and repeat. A lot of rinse and repeat. Get the pieces, extract them, start detailing them. I recently found a new way I was thinking, how can I make this easier? So maybe I don't have to do this by hand. So one of the things that I was thinking about was making an insert brush. They can potentially do this for me. So I think next stream, we'll probably go over some of that if you guys are interested. So that it kind of gives you a little bit of a different workflow in case like it's all about speed. For me, it's all about the art right now. It's not about production. Just about exploring shapes and trying things out. Some stuff works, some stuff doesn't. Let me speed this up even more so you guys can see. Speed up times 8. Let's see how that looks. But you guys can see I go back and forth doing the same steps that I showed you. So there was no behind the scenes magic. It's all the same stuff. Sorry if you see me move my mic, it's because I'm probably gonna cough. But a lot of this was rinse and repeat. Go with the stamp standard, do some moving, see how that looks, refining some of the stuff. Because at first I was gonna leave this part kind of blank, kind of the way it is, and just fine tune it to be more plainer. Then I'm like, well, I feel like the positive negative space of the big areas of like the back and the front of the face and the side have a little bit of filigree, but this would add a little more like framework. So that's kind of what you guys are seeing now, like the framework that I did for this stuff, and I think it worked out pretty well. What do you guys think? Feel free to ask questions, or if you want me to go over some of this stuff, it's not too bad, to go over it. But yeah, a lot of it was just kind of going back, changing some stuff. At one point, I also worked on it's pretty going to just be a helmet, but I did part of the bust, and I wasn't filling the bust part, like the chest, so I might redo that later. But at least for the goal of making this a helmet that's 3D printable, there's also going to be a tiny little like helmet as well, like a 3-inch helmet. I think it meets the criteria. So we'll probably be doing a series of probably one more, so we have 3 of them, and then we can compare them and talk about design and talk about how they all live in the same world and what makes them feel like they live in the same world. Is the speed for you guys okay, or is it choppy? I guess it's been also a few weeks since the ZBrush Summit happened. It was great. I got to attend. I got to meet a lot of you guys, which was really cool. In person, and people asking questions, and it really helped me a lot to figure out like which way I want to take the stream. So if I met you guys out there, you know, it was awesome, guys. You guys should attend if you guys haven't before. You guys should definitely go because it's a very inspirational weekend. You know, you get to meet a lot of people you see online. They're amazing artists, and you get to talk to them too. Speed's okay? Okay, awesome. I just don't want it to be too boring. But you guys are kind of, you know, just we're kind of getting our feet wet so that when we start sculpting right now, nothing's too new. One of the things that I noticed that I use what is it called? I think the Nick K or Nick U model, and he didn't fit my proportion, so I had to adjust the whole thing afterwards to proportion wise, because my head's a little fatter and bigger, I have a big head, so I had to kind of tweak out like the dome shape. It was very tight. I had to like open it up a little bit more so that my head and my ears kind of fit. So that's one thing you guys will see that I do in one of these videos. Let's see, this one's sped up still. Yeah, let's go ×8 so that we can get through this in the next like couple minutes. So here, you know, just going back, a lot of it extraction and then rebuilding is your best friend. Going back and changing some of the shapes, even though they're in the back, you never know. I might turn my head, you might see it, you know, if I'm wearing this. And here I decided to blend that in instead of dynameshing it. I just continue the piece up, and because I had the framework, I was able to kind of hide it in between. But if I didn't, I was probably gonna dynamesh it together. And here I was just thinking of some vent holes, like how is he actually breathing, because a lot of the stuff is decoration. Um, a lot of it's decoration, so it's like I wanted to make it more functional. Here I'm kind of going back and looking, you know, I tend to look at the model from a distance as well to see what's like if the system's still working, like the system that I set up with kind of triangles and the shape, repetitive shapes, because after a while you kind of start losing some of that. And here I was kind of just trying to, you know, play around with the chests, and it was okay, but I wasn't fully happy with it. After stepping back, it was like it's not quite working, so it's a good placeholder, and that's the whole point, right? We do these two as placeholders to see like what's working and not, and then from there you can make a decision whether if you don't like it, then you can remove it. So here you see the 3D scan of me, something I did a while back with a Connect, which I'll probably in the next stream I'll probably go over how you would scan your head with your phone. And here I'm going in here and kind of adjusting all the proportions because it was really like sharp, but my face is a little bigger, so it kind of wasn't working. It wasn't too off, but off enough where like it would have been pretty tight on the cheekbones and the chin. And then working on some of the neck pieces because I feel like those are part of the, you know, like neck pieces would be nice. Even if I replace it with cloth, like some of the other concepts I was talking about, then it still feels integrated, like it's a full piece as opposed to just a helmet you put on. Here I was kind of trying to see if I mimic some of the previous design that I had, like how it would feel, but then of course I didn't want to mimic it too closely because I don't want it to be like the copy of it, just more like inspired by. So here I was just kind of playing with that same design. That seemed to be working better than the previous thing, but at the end I'm still not super happy with it, so I'm gonna scrap it and start something new. Yeah, it can. Yeah, that does look a little adult theme, but it's the only thing that I felt like it was working. Potentially, you could probably go back and revamp it, but I'll show you guys the render that I did in Substance Painter, and that kind of it takes it to a whole different level. So sometimes another thing to think about is like you might want to simplify a lot of the stuff you're doing because once you put textures and different materials on it, it changes it completely. You know, like here I was thinking a little more samurai, like kind of some padding, and that's okay, but I think for this design maybe it doesn't work as well. I don't know. What do you guys think? Cause it'd be great to get your feedback as well, because you know sometimes I get stuck on this and you know you become kind of complacent with some of the shapes, and it's good to step away and see other people's opinions as well. Especially since there's so many of you guys out there watching, it'll be good to know what you guys think, and you guys can see the design process. Like it's not always straightforward. There's always changes, but as long as you're adaptable to change, that's all that kind of really matters at the end. You know that you went back and you changed it, and weren't married to the idea, and made it better for the whole thing instead of just being happy with where it was at. Let's see. I think there's one more, and then we'll move on to the next thing. But here, as you can see, it's just extractions, and then I had a crash, which is awesome. Right after I extracted, because I know you guys know it happens. Yeah, samurai's like somewhere in the border, but I didn't want to go too samurai, so I kind of removed the pads because it started to feel a little too much, too shogun like. But here you go. You see everything came out rough. In the beginning, it was like really extruded out. When I extracted it, it was really like pushing out, and I had to go back and do a lot of just cutting back in, removing some material, you know, fixing some stuff that kind of breaks. But then that helps the theme, right? Like you have a big surface, and then you have a trim part. But in that case, there was no room for filigree in there, so I kind of wanted to just leave it open. And then sometimes some of the shapes you have to go back and ZBrush them, just give them a little hint of more detail, especially like soft edge to hard edge. Let's see, this is almost done. Here going back, see, I kind of wasn't digging it. At the end, I just kind of refined, like just simplified it again and went back. But this feels like it fits this guy, but this doesn't feel like it fits him because it's too much of a copy from the other one. But this was I think pretty late at night, so I was also sick, so I was kind of like, yeah, I shouldn't go this way. Then I duplicated. I was playing around with like maybe doing negative detail on it, but I was like, no, it feels like it's stitched, and it doesn't feel like it goes with the theme of everything kind of being extruded, all the little filigree stuff. And here I was adding like, oh, okay, maybe let me try the opposite, um, just kind of like it's been going, but I feel like it doesn't work, especially if I'm going with the theme of the previous stuff I was looking at, which is let me find it for you guys and show you. Okay, so it's done. It's great. Um, let's go to Photoshop to show you guys what I ended up with. Cool. So even in this in this in Substance Painter, I was playing around with some ideas. This is what I ended up with, and I think this works. A little bit of gold and a little bit of silver. Because before I had all gold, and it was like, nah, it feels kind of weird. But here's some of the other ideas that I played around with. Making it more white, like it had some kind of layer of white pearl on top, and keeping some of the gold trim. I still like the gold trim, but adding dirt to that gold trim. Just playing with different angles, different lighting environments. Because sometimes one environment might make it shine and give it potential, so I tend to play around with that too. A lot of those different environments. But this is kind of what I ended up with, and I think this overall works. Because then it feels like battle damage and like it's been aged, like it's been around for quite a bit. Oh, thanks. I'm glad you're digging it. Um, but that's the whole the deal, right? We're exploring ideas, trying new things, and also like the work process for this stuff is not that difficult to get it to the stage and like see what it's potentially going to look like. Because sometimes when you see it with shaders, all of a sudden it gives it a different life, and when you see it with real lighting, it changes it completely. Um, So that's kind of what I want to emphasize. That sometimes even early on, you can go ahead and like jump into Substance Painter, do a few renders, or even Keyshot, and like see it's like, oh, you know what? Maybe I don't need to add more detail. Let me move on to the next piece. Uh, I'm glad you guys are digging it. Cool. Checking out the chat. But I'm pretty happy with this. So I think I want to print this life size, um, and see how it goes. From there. But cool. At least wanted to give you guys, show you guys what happened with this stuff. So the next thing that we wanted to talk about was this guy, right? So this is the Halloween idea that I had. These are all the layers that came with it. Um, so, just playing around. I'm gonna be wearing a cloak, so I think the main idea of the cloak just to see how that will work with different types of horns. Um, let's see. Did I get rid of the rest? Oh, so I had all these other horns that I was playing around with. Um, let's auto group this. Just doing simple shapes to play around with different types of horns, but at the end I kind of didn't like them. Like I kind of dig these guys that are kind of just going up. Kind of keep them simple so that like Halloween night you can like really, from a distance you could see it. Because if I have them scooped up, you can only kind of see them from the side view. And here I think from like the front view, 3/4, like they read pretty well. So I think I want to stick with those guys. Yeah, yeah. So I started without the form of myself. I started with a simple form that came from Forger, which was I am like I could block it out and do whatever, but the whole point was to just kind of use something and move on to the actual part. Uh, yeah, I hope they get scared, or at least if they see me coming from a distance, maybe they'll be like, "Oh man, what's that?" You know? Because my daughter's gonna be she's only 4, so she's gonna be a witch. So maybe I'll be like the guy protecting her, like the scary guy, her henchman or something. Maybe they'll give her extra candy. But yeah, I started with this simple rough form, and then from there I just grabbed the sphere and started doing this guy here. That's what we're gonna continue to work on today. But you see, it's such a simple sketch. It's nothing. There's nothing detailed, but it kind of informs you of like potentially the direction I want to go. Um, and one of the main things was making sure that I can actually see through this. Cause yeah, I could make holes here or make holes somewhere else and change the design. But I kind of wanted to make sure that I was able to see straight at least, since it's gonna be dark. Um, but I'm gonna be wearing like a black mask underneath. It's like skin tight, so you can't really see my eyes, but I can see out. Um, so everything would be kind of darkness, which is kind of cool. So that way the skull kind of sticks out, and there's not like a silly eyeballs inside, tiny little eyeballs inside the big skull. And that's kind of what I'm kind of going for. Let's get rid of this guy. We don't need that. Another thing I was playing around with was adding jaws. Let's take perspective off. I was playing around with the idea of adding like a. Let's hide that guy. Was adding like a big jaw, but it started to look a little silly. Like it looks kind of like a giant bobblehead. So I feel like that doesn't work. Even if you were to shrink this down and tuck it in a little bit, it doesn't feel right. At least not to me. And here's like another version of the jaw. And it felt just like it makes the skull feel like the proportions don't work right with my head. You know, and it could just be me that I look weird, but I decided not to go with that. Even if you take the cloak off, let's say I'm walking around without the cloak, it looks weird. It just doesn't look right. So I decided to kind of step away from the jaw part and just kind of keep the top of the head. What do you guys think? Um, and then from here, I'm kind of playing around with the ideas at the end of the mandible for the top of the teeth ends right behind my ear, so that my ear kind of sticks out and I can still hear. So it's a bit of function and making it creepy. Um, I think it's working. I noticed like some of the teeth, like I added these last minute teeth because I felt like before that it felt kind of like a bird skull, kind of cute, but I don't want it to feel cute, obviously. So I added these front teeth that I think will help. Um, and then I added more like a bicycle helmet so that it doesn't slip off. I think that's one of the big things that I didn't want it to just be a front mask, because then if I just have like some kind of band going around, it might slip off or it might keep falling. And I feel this way at least I could keep it on top of my head, or I could put like a hat on or some kind of hat system and then kind of keep it tight. But here's some of the references that I'm kind of looking at. If you guys are you guys interested in checking some of the references that I'm kind of thinking of using, let me know. Let's put the music a little higher. But yeah, for you guys that are new to my interface, if you guys haven't been here before, I have like the plain material here, which is probably the best one to use the sculpting, alongside with the one that has a little bit of blend, a little bit of shine, so it's a little more blend-like. You guys can see the highlights, and then there's the actual blend for Maya that I'm kind of used to. So I like looking at this because then I can see if there's a lot of artifacting, which we're going to be cleaning up on this. Then there's my regular red, which I like sculpting on, and then a little more intense material. So I like playing around with these materials because now I can kind of see, of course, the silhouette, like how's this reading. Like here, I feel like maybe from the silhouette we might need to make the mouth a little longer because it feels a little kind of cute. And just a couple other materials that I picked up through time, you know, from like ZBrush Central or different forums that I think are pretty cool to check out your model in. But the main ones are probably these guys. Oh, cool. So you guys want to check out the reference. Cool. Ramen. Okay, awesome. Cool. So here's some of the reference that I collected. When I was sculpting this on the iPad, I had no reference. I was just kind of winging it. But now we're able to look at reference and see how we can correct some of this stuff. Like one of the things that I noticed is that all these eyes tend to be kind of bulging out a little bit, where mine is kind of just flat. So I need to add a bit of a ring around the eyes. Let's see what else. And then, you know, some of the landmarks of the insertions of the bone, of the muscles, and all that type of stuff. You know, like stuff that's cool, like stuff that I kind of don't like, but I want to make sure that I'm not going in that direction because this is like oversimplified and it looks more like a toy. And also, like I don't like the way this looks when you attach it to that. So a lot of the references I'm looking at are like some of the Steve Wang stuff. I'm a big fan of his work. Real skulls to see like the imperfections and indentations. Um, you guys can see the type of teeth. Obviously, when I blocked them out, I didn't have any reference, so I kind of need to go back and change those. And where the like here's some of the stuff that I really kind of want to mimic, like this stuff for like old age and calcification and all that. Um, I like this stuff too, but this is more for like just inspiration. Just like I was showing you guys the boards when I was doing the other helmet. It's more for like inspiration. I'm not actually copying any of this stuff. But obviously for some of the anatomy stuff, it'll be nice to go in here and just refine and add some of these landmarks that are necessary for, to, you know, to make sure it's a real functioning skull. Or at least, let's see, what else? Some of the ideas for the horns, like what kind of horns I want to do. I kind of want to stay away from ram horns because I've done those in different projects before and they're cool, but I don't know if they fit this type of monster. Um, but here's some more reference. You know, like if you look at this stuff, we're probably going to be doing some more of this type of stuff and less of that just overall big detail. Some of the stuff that I really like is like this stuff here, like maybe adding some of the layering, um, some of this stuff. And here's a really good example of kind of some of the stuff we're going to mimic, like making these cut lines. Um, 'Cause it's kind of like a hybrid, right? It's no one specific animal, it's just more like a cool mass. So maybe adding some more of this calcification on here. You know, some of Dominic's stuff, like it's really inspiring, like his skull collection. There's this guy that I saw that was kind of interesting. This is a different take of something I haven't seen before, where like the eyes are actually part of the anatomy. Yeah, the reference is great, right? Like it helps a lot because then you start seeing clearly, oh, what am I missing that's making it? It's gonna make it like more creepy. There's that one. Where's the other reference? This one was pretty cool. So maybe I'll extend and add some teeth in the front because I feel like I don't have any. and make some eye holes, make my eye holes a little better, and maybe even play with the idea of moving the eye holes up. Um, but yeah, hopefully it's not too boring for you guys. We'll get started sculpting some cool stuff. Just move this board out of the way. So I think the first thing we want to do is start attacking some of the landmarks. So let's check out the 1024 actual skull, the scan of a ram or some kind of goat. Feel free to ask questions, or if you guys want to talk about anything specific, 3D printing wise, or art world wise, or ZBrush wise. One of the things that I noticed from Forger when you import stuff in is that sometimes the symmetry is broken. So one of the things that I did right when I brought this in was just do the smart resim on it. Just because it was slightly off, not by a lot, but enough where like you start sculpting later and it kind of breaks, you know. Oh, this is for a Halloween mask that I'm making for myself. So this is just something I sketched on the iPad and now I export it to OBJ, and now we're gonna, you know, kind of refine it here and make it look cooler. Yeah, so since we're still working on primary forms, how's the music for you guys? I moved it a little higher, so hopefully it's not too high. Yeah, symmetry is it's a problem because sometimes you'll spend forever trying to make something cool, and then it breaks everything, right? So here's where I have to go back to use my actual scan and get rid of the other one, because as you can see, it's starting to penetrate my mouth, and that's not what we want. So we need to make sure this is out enough. One thing I wanted to do was also make it longer. And the eyes could be a little smaller. But let's it's kind of a weird mesh, so let's dynamesh it because I haven't since I brought it in. But let's see what's a good resolution. Obviously that is not a good resolution. Let's go to 1000. Alright, cool. Looks like 1000 did the job, so we'll smooth some of this stuff out. Let's see, I have a question. I don't use mirror and weld. I do if there's a piece that's really broken, but a lot of the things that I do, I'll just go to deformation and then hit smart resim, and that tends to fix it. Um, and they'll tell you there how much it actually matched, because sometimes it can't match 100%. They'll tell you it matched 98%, but that's good enough. Or just cut it in half and just do it yourself, or mirror and weld. So there's multiple ways. There's no one specific way. It all depends on your model scale and also orientation, because sometimes you might need to move your model slightly, like cut it in half, slightly move it more to the center, and then mirror it, and then that fixes the whole problem. Because sometimes it's a matter of like where your model's rotated slightly bit, and it's mirroring weird. You know, and resetting the model's, I guess, center as well. So here, I feel like we're missing some of the volume. So this is where it's maybe a good idea to do to duplicate the model. Right, so we're gonna hit duplicate and turn everything else off that we don't need for just a second, including the horns. And we're going to do ZBrush. And why am I using ZBrush? ZBrush is like super important because I could make it super low, and when I make big changes, it's easy for me to do it, as opposed to a dense mesh that has a lot, doesn't even have that much detail in it, but I'm gonna be struggling pulling forms out, especially when I want to make like the nose bridge more bulbous. Okay, I'll look into that. I haven't tried it that way. But here it's obviously maybe a little too low, so we can do is divide it once, and then since we have the other two visible, but it's hidden here, you see how some of the details gone. We'll go ahead and project it, and then divide it one more time, project it, and one more time, and I think that might give us what we have. So here we switch between both of them. It should look the same. So now we can get rid of that guy. Turn the horns back on. Turn the head back on. So now if I wanted to, move this stuff, yeah, it's pretty dense, but now I can go back to level 1 and make big changes, like some of the stuff that I'm seeing here. Like making this flatter and pushing the nose out a little more. And this makes it way easier for me to make these major adjustments like on the fly, like really fast, and see what they look like. And then one thing that I notice is there needs to be like a little bit of a curvature here, the nose sticking out. Let's see what else. And then we're adding a little more of this structure here, like bulbous. Sorry, I'm just gonna keep coughing, so I'm gonna have to keep muting myself. So here, obviously, we need to make I could probably make this, push this away from the eyes. And for this, you don't need a high resolution scan because all we're trying to make sure is that we're seeing landmarks, So this is my scan. If you see it, it's good enough for me to see where my eyeballs are at, nose, mouth, ears. Nothing fancy, nothing high resolution, just a simple head scan. So let's remove those horns for a bit and add a little bit more of now we can go up in resolution, invert that, and agree to pull this out. And we can also do the opposite, right? Like kind of push some of this stuff in. So we're not making this head gigantic, because that's an issue that could become, like, it could start becoming way too big if we keep pushing stuff out. But in this case, since I'm not seeing my face penetrate through, that means I'm still in the safe zone. Yeah, let me know if you guys think these projects are interesting, because I figure this could be like a one-off that we could just do and then see the results next stream, because it will be printed and painted by then. And then we could do more like 2 or 3 session ones like next time. So here now we're starting to get more of that read. But obviously some of this stuff needs to be bridged because it's not just sticking out like that. Like, yeah, there's parts where you do see it, but then there's parts where it blends in. Like the bottom part seems to be sticking out a little more. Smooth some of this stuff out. Here I'm just using stamp standard and the negative and trying to mimic some of those shapes that I've been kind of seeing in the skull. And some stuff I'm making up as well, so it's not just But yeah, if you have any more questions, feel free to ask. Don't be shy. That's the whole point where I'm here to help you guys if there's anything I could help with, or if you guys have Just any general questions. One thing that somebody came up and asked me in the summit was if this is the same workflow that I use for VFX. And no, not really. This is more like a concept design type of workflow. So this is all dirty geo that I just remesh and make work for 3D printing or for just quick renders. So that's, you need to make sure that there's a big difference between that clean geo and not clean geo. Oh, wrong tool. Let's see. But it all kind of relates back to each other. It's just a little different. So I wouldn't say this is kind of the VFX way of doing it. Let's see. For that, I teach other stuff on like at Nomen and a couple of different schools where I teach the proper way of doing stuff for VFX. Let's see, what do we want to do? I want to do some clay down here. Hey Tim. I would say probably use a dummy, kind of like I was using, or get at least one rough scan of a person. There's plenty of free scans out there, and then measure their inside of where their caruncle's at to the outside width, and their cheekbones, and then base it on that, and that could be your ballpark, and then also maybe scale it from that number, like 10%, so that it fits a general audience. If it's you, if it's like your friend, your girlfriend, and that kind of helps. Because one thing I noticed, I printed another skull for somebody else. That's their Halloween mask, and we had an exact scan of them. And one of the things that I noticed that once I booleaned their face out of it, their cheekbones were wider in the front. So when it went to the back, it doesn't keep the wideness. So it should keep it. So when you slide it in, it fits. But the problem was that when it printed the back part, it went back in, so you can't actually fit it like this way, because now the cheekbone part that's indented, um, it won't let you the mask slide in. But you live and learn. Now you know. So I would just make the cheekbone straight back, or fill in that gap so that it's parallel, or filled into the same level. So when you slide it in, it's already nice gap. But let's see. Let's continue this. Oh, cool. Yeah, I know. I printed it out and I tried wearing it. I'm like, it doesn't fit. It's like, oh, because I didn't widen it out, or at least taper it so that it tapers out that way, and it's not like this. Because you see how there's like this gap here where it will fit perfectly, but this is not letting it fit. So if you just taper it out, then it just slides in perfectly. Yeah, once you do it a few times, you learn and you're like, okay, don't do that again. But it's all about experimenting, right? That's the reason we're here, to like play around with this stuff and try new things. And that's what this is for me, just kind of um, and the nice thing about this is that I could block these simple shapes that I'm kind of cutting out at this low res, and then I could go up another level and add, refine them to make them even sharper. So if you see if you kind of ask what I'm looking at, so I'm just looking at the reference of the skull to kind of inform me where some of the insertion points are for the muscles, and kind of try to mimic some of that, so that it makes it feel like it lives more in the real world. Sometimes your geometry gets ugly, no big deal. Just a matter of doing some cleanup. So here I'm just kind of analyzing some of the here's where we go back to our low res and make these bigger adjustments. It's very important not to get married to your work because you're going to have to do some adjustments, and sometimes there are a lot of rework, sometimes they're not. So here, one thing I want to do, I'm liking from this gold skull, is it's a little wider on top. So you have like the nose bridge a little smaller, and then it gets a little bigger. The other thing you have to think about is like how long is it going to take this to print as well, because it's a pretty big piece. And Halloween's, you know, probably 20 days or less than now, so next I have to paint it. Let's see. So here I keep adding resolution, and in order to make this feel sharp, we're running out of resolution. I go back with the dem standard, but the opposite direction. So you get some more sharpness in there. Oh. So here's where I start playing with some of the shaders, you know, just to see what I can do. These are all supposed to be teeth, so I'll separate that ridge out. Then cut some more teeth, and it seems like most of the teeth are pretty flat. This fun? Are you guys enjoying this so far? So if you ever have that issue where like your brush can't get any smaller, you could change the brush dynamic to, it's at a 10. So if you put it down to 1, I can go lower. I had the limitation where I couldn't based on the, oh cool, I'm glad you guys are digging it. The limitation that I couldn't shrink that brush down. From here I'm just adding some sharpness, so when you see the teeth from a distance, they read more. I can also make them more together because there's no really point of having any gaps. Here's where I like using something more like this, where like it can be more specific. And then just move it out. do inflate, but it's gonna kind of make them penetrate each other, and it becomes kind of ugly geometry. All right, so I think we're getting somewhere. I think I need to do one major change. But before that, let's save, because you have to save often. Because the last thing we need is to start this over. Won't be too exciting for you guys. So one thing that I'm noticing is that the angle should be coming outwards. So here we're starting to get some penetration, so good thing we have that mesh, because now we could push that out. And the cool thing is that you could really visualize all this stuff now, just and there kind of, gives you a little cool visual of like what it's gonna look like as a print. Here's kind of like what I'm potentially thinking of doing. But for now, we just want to keep the model on. Let's see what else. And we got to figure out where the horns are going to be at, because now that we remove them, or not, we need to make sure that we place them. They're too close to the socket now, so we need to kind of move this whole thing overall just a little back, so they almost kind of fit under that ridge, which all kind of comes into play. You know, we can move that ridge up. So now they feel like they have a really nice insertion point where they're kind of originating from. So here I'll probably extend this just a little further back. You guys can always do this and kind of see it's not enough, too much. I like using this shader because then you can see if I switch to the red, you can see where the white ghost is at, and really like it informs me like, okay, I'm way too far, too close. In this case, I can go a little tighter because we also want to spend a lot of time printing this stuff, because it's probably going to be a good 90 hours, or who knows, we'll find out soon. But you can use this to see like how much the cheekbones are sticking out. You can see where my face stops and that thing continues, or where my nose is at. So I could probably make this whole thing hollow in there so that I can have it like to breathing from here to there, you know. And because I'm wearing black, you won't see that. So I just need to leave a little bit of the bone inside, but I can make it at least hollow. Sorry, I'm gonna take a cough drop so I don't keep coughing. How was everybody's weekend? Everybody have a good weekend? Anybody working on any cool projects they want to share? We can also check those out. Cool, so now we can work on the horns. So one of the things that I'm noticing about the horns, let's see. At least in this case, they're just kind of coming out, so we could just kind of make them coming out the same way. As a, you know, kind of like this, just kind of taper all that stuff out and then maybe make a sheath. Which that could be, actually that could be a pretty good idea, because then we can make this a separate print and not have to worry about printing it all at one time. And those are some of the things you have to think about if you're printing all your stuff yourself. How can you break it into parts? Even if it's a large print, yeah, it'd be nice to print it all as one, but the amount of support material that comes into play, it could be pretty, not expensive because it's filament, but time consuming because you're going to have to print supports just to support this thing. But in this case, let's see. Let's do a little masking So that's kind of where that guy's coming out from, right? So that means we have to make sure there's a little bit of a nub. Let's move it out. But don't be shy to ask questions, guys. I mean, there's a lot of you guys in here, so. So obviously that's not a perfect shape, but that's the whole point. We're gonna make it a perfect shape now. So this could be a nice key line where like it's a nice seam and nobody will even know when we're done. Yeah, we need to modify our horns a little bit, but that's not a big deal. Still works, right? What do you guys think? So how many of you guys out there are 3D printing stuff, or 3D printing for cosplay, or 3D printing at a large scale? Because I've been 3D printing for, you know, small collectible stuff like busts that are like 10 inches tall, 8 inches tall. But now exploring the stuff with this life-size stuff makes it's a whole different ball game. Just because there's so much to think about time-wise, like the prints all of a sudden shoot out to a couple hundred hours, where before it was maybe 30 hours max, 50 hours. You know, you run out of filament, you run out of material. In the middle of a print, that could be really like it could really kill your whole mood of how you're or how long you're gonna be able to produce it for. You know, like if you need to do this for Halloween, like I gave myself like 2 weeks, so in case it fails, then I could still continue. Oh, right. Yeah, it's over the bone, so it's the other way. Yeah, you're right. Let me just flatten this out. Yeah, so it's a sheath, right? So it goes on top of that. Yeah, but at this stage, I'm still roughing things out, so it's okay to make some of those mistakes, you know? As long as you know you're going to make those, you're going to fix it later. And it looks like it has a very sharp edge, so let's, well, first, let's fix some of this stuff, because it's looking pretty thin. Yeah, thanks for pointing that out. Sometimes you start talking about on the stream and forget the actual things you're trying to do. We could also reshape some of this stuff too. And I don't care if they're perfect. Actually, the more imperfect they are, the better, because then it looks more realistic. But I want to also keep a certain amount of nice surface, right? No, it's good. This is the whole point, you know. It's cool because then maybe I'm like looking at this as a thumbnail in my restream part and looking at this full scale is like so different. Like I could see a lot of mistakes, like how lumpy a lot of this stuff is, which kind of makes me want to start it from a sphere for the horn. But no biggie, you know. We'll just do a little bit of clay and kind of fill some of those gaps out that are not so perfect. It's kind of like I like to think about it like a scraper. Like this is kind of just scraping the surface and removing filling in any gaps that we might have caused or have at the moment. But you guys think? What do you think so far? Distance still looks cool. Let me see how that looks. Let's see if we need to adjust the cloak. That's not too bad, right? Let's see. I forgot to turn symmetry on all these pieces. It's nice to visualize it, even if it's super rough, of like what this is gonna look like. A lot of you guys into Halloween, like dressing up and stuff. I usually don't, but I love makeup effects and all this stuff. But I'm trying to figure out why I just don't do it myself. But I guess this year's the beginning of a lot of that. I guess now having kids also helps that they're really excited about dressing up. Yeah, I think it's not bad, right? It could be like a pointy one. Actually, it doesn't look too bad. Let's move some of that cloak. See, like this one has pretty bad symmetry. But good thing it's just a piece of cloth that's not gonna actually matter. Oh, you don't have, where are you from? You don't have Halloween here. Sorry, my phone's going off. Let me just mute it. Switzerland. Oh, okay. But you guys have other things, right? Like Krampus or any other type of holiday that has monsters, or no? Am I thinking of the wrong place? Right. So let's see. We're getting there. And we could thin this out a little bit because this is getting. Yeah, that sounds cool. Evil Santa sounds amazing. So one of the things that I kind of like from here is making sure there's like a triangle going on, where before like it just went straight up and there was no tapering. So I'm starting to add some of the support underneath the. So yeah, I like the way that it looks from the top view. And then let's add those front teeth that we, these guys right here. See, that doesn't have symmetry either. How does that read? So let's extract that. That's way too high. Let's try that. I didn't like the way those back ones were looking. They look kind of look a little silly, I think. And that's where you have to find the right balance, right? Like sometimes some things you think will work start to look kind of too weird. Let's go 600. Could be a little smaller. It's not too bad. What do you guys think? Let's see. What can we incorporate now that's that we're kind of missing? I don't know. Those front teeth are. I don't think they're working. I think we're gonna keep them out. But you know, that took what a couple minutes. We made them. Found out they don't work. I think we take this up higher. So that was just still some detail in there, but maybe you can fill that up a little bit. So it's nice and thick. Just when we print it, there's not a. Let's turn some back face masking on. Because I'll be wearing black, you can't really see it. So, so I think this is getting in the right direction. Let's see if we can get inspired by some more. Some more Steve Wang reference. Let's see what we can add that's not a. Well, at this point, let's save again because it's been about an hour or 40 minutes, so it's a good idea to save. Oh, thanks, Mac. How many people we have up here? Can you guys, if you want to share where you guys are from, that'll be great because it's good for me to know like where around the world you guys are from. Awesome. From Brazil, that's cool. Yeah, it looks like we have, let's see, like 90 people or so from between Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Well, hopefully you get to learn some stuff. I mean, you know, just kind of how to get some ideas out and 3D print them or use them for some cool concepts, you know. So at this point, let's see what we can do. We're gonna duplicate this guy. Make sure we turn that guy off, and this is where you can start playing around with some more ideas at this stage. So it's so UK. Oh, okay, awesome. Rethon Studios, Italy here. Cool, cool, nice. Good to know. There's you guys from all over the world learning ZBrush and like enjoying, hopefully enjoying the stream. So here I'm just playing with the idea of like what happens if we were to shift the eyes all the way up and I use that other idea of like making little holes for my actual eyes. See if that looks better or worse, or if it doesn't really make a big difference. Or if it even works, because it might look super weird. You guys enjoying the stream so far from all over the world, or it's a little too boring? You guys let me know. So even at this point we can start seeing if it's cool or not, and we'll compare them right now. Let's see. Where's my other? I don't know. What do you guys think? Guess we'll shift it to the side. Not boring? Okay, awesome. Let's turn that one on. Has a little bit of a cool factor in it too. Hmm. Any thoughts? Any ideas out there? What do you guys think? So that means my eyeballs. My actual eyeballs are like right here. Should be more like up here. So I have to be seen for like through these holes, which it's not a bad idea, but maybe I need to do a little work on these guys. So that it feels more incorporated into the skull. Okay, so what we can do is, let's see. Let's look at some reference. Good. Yeah, I'll break some symmetry. I'm just trying to figure out like what I can do to see better. Because I kind of like the way this is going. It feels more less human-like, so it feels more scary, I think. But maybe this is where we can start playing around with moving some of this, like the Coronco area. So instead of making a hole there, I just play around with like elongating the eyeball, but keeping it. So this is sitting on top of my head. Yeah, I'm thinking of breaking the symmetry with like maybe some of the eyes, and once I start adding more detail in the nose shape, like making one of the nostrils bigger than the other, I think that will work. But I'm looking at this reference here. Let me show you guys. And I kind of like what's happening here. So I'm thinking that could probably be, if I elongate my eyeball, I could probably make this where I see through, and it's still not breaking away from the giant eyeball that you guys are seeing, which, see, what does that look like sideways? So it's more like this, and I'm actually looking through this hole, and this is like the main eye socket. Why not have the eyes holes in the one of the eyes? Yeah, it could be. That's kind of how I had before, but I feel like it feels like a cow head, maybe. you know, which is more like this one here, and that's kind of where I was looking out through, which also works, but maybe I'm thinking of playing with this idea a little more because that feels a little more menacing, I think. But let's see how much can we actually get around with before it starts to look not so cool. That's another problem, right? Like I might think it looks okay now, but then once I actually do it, it might actually not look good. So maybe we could break the shape. Yeah, I like that one giant shape. Let's see. That looks kind of cool. Looks pretty evil. Here's the next thing to really think about too is the lighting, right? Because it's mostly going to be lit from the top. So how creepy does this look? I'll definitely have to do some renders as well to make sure this is not looking too alien-like. That shifts my horn all the way back. So I can close this up just a tiny bit, I guess. Let's see. Let's get in there. I think just the shape of the eye needs to be reworked a little bit. What do you guys think? You guys like the new one or the older one? I think if we kept more of the round eye, less of the more of the circle eye, less of the almond eye. Also got super thin. Hey, Zimpia, how's it going? Thanks for joining the stream. So we got about 30 minutes left. Let's see what we can do with this. Maybe we could make the ice a little smaller. That might help, not making them look like giant alien eyes. Let's see. Oh, yeah, thanks for joining. Yeah, I just started Twitch recently. I think this is like my fourth or fifth session, so um, it's pretty fun. You know, as long as people join in and have some conversation, that's always a good thing as well. Let's see. Uh, no, I don't use Blender. I mostly use Maya, but I have been thinking of switching to Blender to just try it out because I see a lot of my friends are using it, and what are the plugins now seems really nice. Do you recommend it? Do you use it? Probably have to redo these guys. Oh, so you've been using Max for a while. Okay. Oh, what's up, man? How's it going, Pavlovsky? It's been a while. Alright, so I think we took some of the evilness away, so we need to bring some back. Just start sculpting? Okay. Well, that's what this whole thing is about, right? We're doing simple sculpture, like simple shapes to complex, making them complex later. And it all starts from a sphere, so that's the main thing. If you guys just keep practicing, you know, you guys can really do anything. Which is like the main theme for a lot of these streams, or you know, at least for my stream, is that you guys should be able to accomplish. If I can do it, you guys should be able to do it, and it should be easier. Whatever you guys see out there, um, you guys should be able to create your own Halloween masks, your own creations, your own IPs. So I think with this design, we need to make the skull a little taller. Yeah, I agree. Autodesk definitely needs to go down their pricing. That would help keep more people here using their software. But I really appreciate everybody joining and giving some feedback and having fun on a Sunday morning, or it might be Sunday night at your place. Not sure, but for here it's early in the morning, but it's fun. So here I'm just trying to refine some of these shapes so that they read much nicer and more strong. So when you light them from like above, it's pretty menacing, right? Yeah, that's the whole point, making this creepy. So here, maybe I actually need to lower this just a little more. Won't be perfect for me to see out, but at least I'll... Well, the next thing I can do too is actually just move the whole thing down, right? So one of the tricks that I did from adjusting my other helmet was making sure that whatever I didn't want to move, I masked out, right? So I don't want to move. Uh, that stuff doesn't matter. Everything else can move. So now we just have to find our gizmo. There it is. I can move the whole thing slightly down. Now we can turn everything else back off. Keep me on. Put that on. Turn the horns on. And now my eyes actually line up much better. So sometimes it's just a matter of moving the whole thing down, which in this case it feels like that's what it was. And I'll start getting rid of some of this stuff that's kind of just trash. So you keep your scene nice and clean, and when you're saving, you're not saving too much data. Let's see, let's look at some of the chat. Well, for ZBrush for portability, it depends, right? Like a laptop, a really slim laptop, like I have an Asus that's super slim, but then you have to carry a tablet, which I prefer because then if you were to upgrade your laptop, you upgrade everything, right? I also had a Cintiq Companion 2. That works great, but then you have to carry a little keyboard, and it's heavier and the battery runs out quicker, and you really can only use it for like ZBrush and Photoshop, which is fine. But I like to use it for more things I do, like VR, sculpting, and other things. So I'd rather have a laptop. Um, but what I would recommend is using your iPad and just using Forger and sketching, and then get into the workflows of bringing it to ZBrush. Like exporting to ZBrush. Spend an hour or two refining all your primary shapes, and then bring it back to ZBrush in your workstation. So when you're out, you're always sketching, getting ideas out, and then refining them if you see potential in them. Oh, thanks, man. Glad you're digging the skull. Yeah, I'm actually gonna make it for a mask, so hopefully I could finish it like in the next 2 days or a day. But we got pretty far on the stream, and then from there print it out and then paint it. So I'll have to probably have it painted next week or the next stream, which is in 2 weeks. Just like a generic skull, like some kind of creepy skull. It's not really a dragon. It's more like kind of inspired by multiple things. Which face are you talking about? Oh, get my own face rendered. I just use my phone. I use a Connect scanner, but you can also use your phone. So maybe next week I'll record some stuff, so that way the week after you guys can see how I did it. It's really easy. Cause it's not like super high definition, but it's good enough for you to like have. It's like not super high res, but it's good enough for this stuff, where you can kind of see like, okay, my eyeballs are around there, my nose is around there, you know, and you could like start figuring out where all this stuff is at. Like, you know, my nose is there, my eyes are actually right there, which is cool because I could see forward enough and I could see to the side. And I'm not running or anything, so it should be fine. And I think that's like the main thing, right? That you could actually walk around and use this. And there's plenty of room for my mouth. And like one thing I'll probably do is boolean all this stuff out. So let's grab that sphere that I just put in there. Oh, gotta remember to uncheck these guys, or else you're moving everything along for the right, which sometimes you want, but a lot of times you don't. So here we can actually use the gizmos to make like a quick passage. Right. Just doing some of this stuff. And then using the light boolean. So now that we have that piece, we can actually use it. And then we cut that out. So you see that made a whole passage now for my mouth to be able to breathe. The reason you're seeing those little artifacts is because my scan is on. But you know, I'll use my scan to cut myself out, and I'll use this to make that hole so that now I can actually breathe and just extend it. The really nice thing is that you can move it around live. So here, you guys can see how the hole's becoming bigger. Or if I start scaling it, it's actually cutting into the mesh. But since I just need it to be like a breathing hole, like that's all I really need it for. Hey, how's it going, Chun? How long have I been modeling for? Modeling and sculpting probably like 18 years. But like, you know, this stuff like the ZBrush, like stuff that I'm doing now for Pixelogic, probably like 3 weeks or 4 sessions or so. Yeah, I actually have been sculpting a lot in the medium. And I'm actually thinking of trying out a gravity sketch. I kind of was staying away from it. I tried it like a year ago and it wasn't there, but I seen a lot of really good results recently. So that's the next thing to hit gravity sketch probably tonight or so. But I've been sick with a cold, so I didn't want to put a VR headset on to, you know, to not get it all infected. But it's kind of what I'm thinking. So at this point, I will probably take it into Keyshot or Zebra or Substance Painter. But before that, let's just save it out and try that, so you guys can kind of see what it's going to look like. So let's render. So you have to go to external renders. Yeah, have you guys been using Oculus Medium or anything like that? Any VR sculpting? I highly recommend it because you could combine it with ZBrush and makes like some really cool stuff. So one of the main things, I would highly recommend if you guys don't have a Keyshot to get a copy of it, because it makes all this. Let's change this. So I prefer between an 85 and a 100 millimeter lens. That's kind of what I prefer overall. Let's see this. Find a nice HDR. It's always fun. But you guys can see the potential now. Like, okay, it's looking pretty good. Is all the shapes kind of working? Even if I'm wearing it, like, yeah, it's not too bad. I still wear like a hat. My ears, I might have to do a little bit of adjustment. And I noticed there's this weird glitch where like if you're rotating, sometimes like the rest of your subtools will turn off. Not sure if you guys have gotten that issue or not. Yeah, all the 3D printing, all that stuff, this concept stuff I do mostly as a hobby, just for fun. Um, let's see, let's play around with some materials. See if we can find something that's close to bone. Last time I checked it, they didn't have anything that was close to bone, but no, I see there's nothing. Um, but let's find something else. Yeah, that's not too bad. See, there's that glitch again. So I think at a distance, this is probably fine for Halloween, especially with the paint job I'm going to do with the dry brushing. You'll see a lot of the cavities and a lot more things that I'm going to be sculpting on it. But at least you get a feel if it's even in the right direction of kind of where you're thinking of going. Especially with something like this, right? Since I'm only going to be lit from street lights, I think this is probably going to be fine. Let's see. It's one of my favorite ones. I think it's one of these. I think it's either that one. No, this one that has more contrast. I think I'm gonna turn off the background. Hmm. It's like the exterior ones look much nicer. Yeah, do you guys have any questions? Anything cool happening today? Yeah, man, those headsets are coming down in price, but they're still not cheap, and then you still need to have a very powerful PC, or else it doesn't run well. That's one of the issues that I had, where like you need to make sure your graphics card is like really good, or else it starts to kind of chug. Or also have a lot of RAM once you get into a lot of the multi-layer stuff. Keyshot is a good one, but make sure you get the Keyshot bridge and the Keyshot version for ZBrush, which is this is what I'm using, because then it's also cheaper. Because if you buy the full program, it's pretty pricey, um, and you probably won't use it a lot of times for other things. It's great for going back and forth between ZBrush, but I would not probably recommend it as a general use. I use Arnold, which is great. That comes with Maya, and I heard Eevee is really good. I think that's the name of it. It comes with Blender. But if you're using just for quick visualization, probably Substance Painter would be ideal, but Keyshot is good for as well. It depends. I use mostly Substance Painter because I'll put some quick UVs and then start playing with some materials and mask. But if you just want to drag materials kind of like what we did and do some renders, Keyshot is great. And it's just one click button, it sends it over. You don't have to worry about anything. Let's see what else. Yeah, I'm kind of excited about Keyshot 9 because now they use GPU, right? And I'm super excited about all the RTX stuff. My day job, I work for NVIDIA, so I get to work with some of their latest stuff, and it's amazing. So I can't wait to use Keyshot with that and see how that. Let me lower the volume on the music. Sorry about that, guys. Now that Keyshot and a lot of other programs are implementing that's a game changer because it pretty much changes the whole game for you to be able to do stuff real time. Let me see if I can open up my file from Substance and you guys can kind of see how easy you can see a lot of this stuff and make changes quickly, kind of the way we've been doing it, but with shaders and lighting. Oh, they're protesting at BlizzCon. Oh, I didn't know that. Let me open my file. I know it's not a Substance Painter um, stream, but it's still ZBrush related because we're still doing all this stuff. Let me see, where did my file go? Because you could visualize all this stuff, kind of like the renders that I did in Photoshop. I think I closed now. I have them open. You could do this in like a matter of like 30 minutes. Like put some quick UVs, do some quick test renders, get this stuff out and then be like, okay, cool, move on, or no, it's not good enough, or I need to go back and sculpt more detail. But in this case, I felt like the amount of sculpted detail was enough. It's a lot of this other stuff that makes it look feel more photoreal, like the surface materials. The UVs for this model, yeah, I could show you that. As soon as the Substance Painter file opens up, it's probably easier. Or let me see if I have the file that I have. Yeah, and most of these UVs are just, to be honest, like they're super basic, you know? Like there's nothing crazy about them. They were actually just done by ZBrush, which made it super easy, you know. Um, but if this was a production model, of course I would do the UVs a little different, take them to Maya, take my time and set them up correctly. But in this case, ZBrush did such a great job that I don't have to worry about it. And this is not going to be a production model, so it's not a big deal. But these are some of the UVs of the stuff that I did for this. See, but ZBrush does a great job. Yeah, sure, there's little stranglers there, you know, that are kind of just floating around. Let's get rid of the wire. But it's good enough for me to paint and do mask on and all that stuff, so it's not a big deal. But it's pretty much, you know, just like really make sure that everything has enough resolution to be able to go down to level 1, right? That's the biggest thing, so that you're not UVing on something that's crazy dense like this. You're doing it in something that's like really low like that. And then from there, all I really did, I didn't even bother masking anything. I just went straight to UV unwrap and unwrapped everything. It took about probably like 10 minutes to do all the pieces because there's a lot of them. As you can see, like every single piece, like every single trim has some sort of UVs, and you know, in some cases they're overlapping, which you see on one of my renders. It's a little bit of a hiccup there, but it's good enough. And if I really worried about it, I could just get it and rotate it, and that's it, and it'll evaluate the same way. Let's see, we have time. Yeah, we have some time to show you guys this stuff. So here's like the, you know, like what this looks like. And here's the little glitch that I'm talking about. You see back here, there's a little bit of weirdness. That's because that one is overlapping, but it doesn't matter. See over here, it's not. But yeah, a lot of this stuff is just, you know, they're all separate shapes. Bake them out. That took another 10-15 minutes to bake all this stuff out, and that's because I was being so lazy that I didn't want to combine them, or else it probably would have been a lot quicker. But it's cool to be able to just bring it here and like see it. You guys can see that it's interactive, just like Keyshot was, right? Um, then you guys can change the environment to something else, and then that changes it here. You know, you can just play around with that stuff. Let me see. Let me go back to ZBrush. So I check my UVs with Morph UV, just so you guys can see what I'm talking about. But let's see. Yeah, right now they're all treated as UDIMs, like if they were all separate because they're individual pieces. But if I was to combine them together, then I will spread them out over like 10 UDIMs at least, so I get enough resolution for everything, for all the nooks and crannies, all the little grime and stuff. But because this is quick and dirty, it doesn't matter. But if you guys are interested in seeing that workflow, I could make a tutorial. I know I had a few people ask me. I was thinking of making a little Gumroad that shows you like how to take one of these models and get it to that, like set up the UVs the right way, how to do it the quick dirty way, so you know how to do both, because there's occasions where you're going to need to do one way or the other, and then do the Substance Painter stuff as well. But since we're in the Pixelogic ZBrush stream, it's kind of hard to talk about that stuff because it's all about mostly about ZBrush, not about Substance Painter. But at least I like to give you guys a hint of like where you guys can take your stuff to. Yeah, and the tutorial would be pretty cheap, and it's you know not super long. It's just enough to give you all the information you need to get you going and make some of those renders. You know, because you can see that sometimes a simple model like this, once you put the nice renders on it, it could look pretty amazing. You know, at least pretty photoreal. What's my favorite project since I've been on this career? I'll probably want to see Infinity War, just because the amount of creativity and the characters I got to work with were like super cool. That was probably like my favorite project. But also, like, there's different reasons why you like certain projects, right? The team you have with you, that makes a big difference. Like, back in the days when I worked at a different company, I had a really good team, which Chun was one of my teammates, and Christos at you, and we used to like just go crazy and do crazy detail and do crazy amount of projects at the same time. So it all depends. What are we talking about specifically, right? Like, the team, the project, the camaraderie, the amount of creativity. Like another project that was really fun for me was the Justin Timberlake project, because I got to go talk to him, scan him, do all this stuff, and then make some cool concepts as him as a robot. And that was really cool. And that was really short time span, like 2 or 3 weeks of doing all that. So it all really depends on, I guess, what the project calls for and what's involved in it. Yeah, a lot of people taught me the squirrel game. I haven't played that game to know what you guys are talking about, but I did some screen grabs last stream. Somebody sent me some screen grabs. I was like, okay, I can see this guy fitting in that world. But yeah, I'm trying to just make my own collectibles, my own IP. So this is kind of part of it. This is only one of the characters from this world, from this Forgotten Kingdom world that I made up. So hopefully I get to develop it more, and it'll be good to see them in real life. Not just like a bust that I have, but an actual like a product that's like wearable. Somebody was asking about the stuff that I do in Medium. So here's like one of the things that I do in Oculus Medium. There was let me see if I can change this. Um, that was created in Medium and then painted to. It was painted in airbrush with one of my friends, and then brought in to real life now. But yeah, if you guys like seeing that stuff, follow me on Instagram, because that's where I post all this little random things that I do, playing with different softwares, different hardware, um, doing reviews on things. But yeah, I think we're close to the end. But I'm glad you guys came by and checked this stuff out. Some of the stuff that I'm thinking of developing further. I think I got rid of the bus here, but let's see if we can open up another file. One of the earlier files. Let's see. But yeah, if you guys enjoy this, let me know. Feel free to send me a message via Facebook or Instagram or something, and let me know what you guys would like to see more of, or are interested. If you like what I'm doing, kind of creating your own IP stuff, let me know. We could do more of that, or we could change it to be a little more production friendly, or more concept friendly, or 3D printing friendly. But for me, I'm really trying to just do the fun stuff, that just design, and not worry about the tools. Like, that's what makes ZBrush such an amazing program, that you don't have to worry about that. You could just make a sphere and start doing whatever, and then it could be a hard surface, it could be a photoreal human, it could be anything, and you just sculpt. Let's see, did this file open up? Yeah, so this was a previous guy, if you guys didn't join the stream, and he was made a similar way. So a lot of people were asking like how I got to this point. So that's the reason I started that one with just sphere, and kind of showing you guys um, just kind of what it took to get there. And I printed this guy out life size, and a bust, like a collectible bust. But yeah, it's just it's a lot of primary shapes, of course, a lot of design. It's mostly the design that makes it work, right? Because if your design doesn't work, it's never gonna look right, no matter how much detail you add. Um, but yeah, that's kind of what we're doing here on the stream. Um, so I'm doing the streams every other week for now. I'm considering doing them every week, but I'm not sure based on your feedback if you guys like it, if you guys want more, then I could do more. If not, then every other week is good. Or make a series of like like some of the stuff that I was gonna do. I was gonna make one more helmet, so that we have 3 helmets, and then from there move on to more full figure character, kind of like some of the stuff on my Instagram, like a little gold character, or maybe the continuation of these guys where like they actually get full bodies, and then how to repose them to make them a cool statue. So you know, it's possibilities are endless, which is it's a good and a bad thing. Let's see. Do you think sculpting models versus drawing? I prefer to sculpt. I used to love drawing. I haven't been drawing in ages, but for me, sculpting is so much easier. It's just faster, and I could light it and look at it and be like, nope, move on, next sketch, and not spend more than 5-10 minutes, or 20 minutes on the sketch, and then from there, if it has potential, move forward on it. If not, then just move on. Hey, what's up, Juan? Yeah, for this guy, I still have to add a little more. I have to dynamesh everything together and then make a shell to make it printable. So what I could do is probably cover that next week or cover that next stream, and but show you guys like the actual print. So I'll print it beforehand and then show you guys like the process of like making it hollow, the right wall thickness, making sure everything's concisive, like one giant mesh that's not just interpenetrating. So that it's optimized too for most of the stuff that I do is like resin printing on the Form 2. So you want to make sure that you don't waste material and things are not solid so that you can save money on, right, and print more things. But when it comes to like the life-size stuff, then you have to really worry about the wall thickness. Make sure it's thick enough but not too thick, because then it's going to take forever to print with all the info and all that. But yeah, I'll cover some of that because I think it's important to take you guys through the whole process of like, now we have the creation, we know it looks like that. It could potentially look like this other render based on your paint jobs. Like it could look like this if you were to paint it gold with this stuff and do some finishing. But how do you get it to the print stage? That's the probably next step. It's a little more boring because it's just a lot of boolean and combining and remeshing. But if you guys want to know that, it's easy for me to cover as well. No, it doesn't require steady hand. A steady hand helps, but the steady stroke, so that helps a lot when sculpting on this stuff. One of the things that I found that was super useful when I was making these swoops here and adding all that detail was getting one of these gloves. One of these, I got them a while back. They're called Dorky Wear, um, and they're just a glove that you just kind of put on your hand that's missing like the two fingers, so you could grip onto your pen, which is really cool, right? And it has a like a leather bottom, so it doesn't scratch your Cintiq. I have a Cintiq or tablet, so then when you're making the stroke, it's like it helps with that as well. So I would highly recommend if you're having a problem with all that steady stroke stuff, uh, maybe try using this, because then it will help you kind of swoop your hand like nice and smooth, as opposed to your hand might get a little sweaty or a little sticky, and then you start getting those weird wobbles. Let's see. Yeah, my configuration. Sure. Let me get a link for you. Let's see. Where are you guys? Yeah, feel free to download it. It's free, so um, try it out. Let me know what you guys think. It's meant for a left-handed person, so if you guys are right-handed, just switch all the tools the other way. But me being left-handed, I had to switch everything to the left side, which I know most people are not, but it works for me. It makes it so much easier to reach any tools and grab this stuff and start like just going at it. But yeah, it looks like we're done with the stream. I hope you guys enjoyed it and had fun and learned some stuff hopefully, and uh, or we're gonna join next time. But yeah, thank you for joining. Talk to you next stream. See you. Bye.